First of all, thank you guys for all being here. We want to do a quick set of introductions for some of our guests. And I'm going to tap on Ms. Greer here to go first as you guys are presenting today, try to make a habit of actually getting in front of the microphone as well as in front of the camera. For the visitors, we'll give them a pass because ultimately they're here to visit versus coming to class. But you will be getting participation points here as you process through class. So Greer, why don't you go first?
Hi everyone, I'm Greer Goings. I work with the Stanford development team, and I won't say what year reunion, but I'm working with Ward this year on his class reunion, and he's been an amazing volunteer and an amazing leader in his class since his time here at Stanford, and as you can see, continues. So,
You need to maybe turn red. Exactly. My gifts ask just increased, I think, as a result of that positive comments. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Kelly. I'm visiting from Johannesburg. I work for a social impact venture capital fund in Joburg. Been there for about 2.5 years, and I'm visiting as a prospective student this week.
Kari, quickly, put you on the spot. We've got our guests here from Stanford Athletics. So, Kari, you want to do a quick introduction of your team that's making this all happen?
Sure. I want everyone to stand up. First, we go Aaron Bryant. Aaron, tell them about yourself, Aaron.
So I just graduated here last year. I'm doing a master's at St. Mary's. I played on the basketball team for 3 years. Got hurt my last year. So I'm doing a master's at St. Mary's. And I'm going to be conducting the interviews with the teams outside. And so if you guys can give me just great responses and make me look really super cool.
So you guys ever watch The People's Court? So he'll be like Doug Lowen outside Judge Wapner's asking for how the case went. So thanks, Aaron, for being here.
Will.
Hi, I'm Will. I go to Miami University, just finished my freshman year. I'm going to be doing audio, so feel free to speak up.
Kyle. Cameron.
My name's Kyle. I work here in the Bay Area. I'm doing sports broadcasting mainly. I'm playing Stanford. And feel free to pick up the microphone and talk into it.
Anybody? And Bruce.
I'm in the background. I'm Bruce Boyd. I'm the IT director at the D.school. I'm just coming over to see this beautiful setup that they've got here. So it's a treat.
So I'll give it a round.
All right, we're going to do one quick warm-up exercise. It's super awkward. It's super fun. Well, it's super awkward. So you need to all stand up in your teams. And I know it's been a journey to kind of get to where we are today, and there's still some more work to do before Monday. But this is just something to learn how to receive appreciation, right? So what you're going to do is kind of stand in a circle. Your team has to stand in the circle. A square, okay. And let's see. How much time do we? Should we do 30 seconds? 30 seconds. All right. So you're going to take turns, and one person is going to go into the middle, and then the other people are just going to show your appreciation for your teammate. Cheer, clap, whoop for your teammate. It's like I said, it's super awkward, but receive the gratitude. It's going to take about 30. We're going to do that for 30 seconds. We had to do it for like 2 minutes. It was super, super weird. But we're just going to have you guys do it for 30 seconds, right? So everybody, and if you only have 3 people, then you have to do it again because some teams have 5 people, right? Okay, so first person in the middle. First person in the middle. Ready, set, go. All right, switch. Next person. Switch it up. Next person. right, switch. Next person, next person. Keep it up, keep it up. All right, next person, next one, next one. Switch, switch, switch. Keep it up, keep it up, come on, keep it up. All right, last one, 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 last one. Keep it up. All right, all right. How did that feel? Hey, so seriously, for the people in the middle receiving the appreciation, how did that feel? Yeah.
You turn it around and everybody's like looking straight at you.
Anybody else?
It felt like that moment, like you finish a presentation or something, and your immediate or just like, okay, yeah, that's stop, like get off the stage. I feel like if the GSB, all the communications class, tried to train you to like stand there and set the applause, but it's like running off stage. So it's hard to run away.
I wanted to like include people in this interact with people who are giving me this appreciation. I don't know, high five them or something to make it less passive on that side and bring it back to them.
All right, awesome. So that was a great way to kind of get you guys. Sorry, that was a great way to kind of get you guys started. It's dress rehearsal for us too. It's a great way to kind of get you guys started for the event. And I think I'm going to hand it over to Ward, and he's going to kind of go over the agenda, and we'll get into the presentation shortly.
Yeah, so some quick reminders here before Fidelity 1, which I think is going to go first. We have, again, tonight, Story Jam session starting at 7 o'clock. We also ask that the teams last Monday, on the second day of our storytelling session, send me those videos. Seamus is putting together a compilation for his media class, so if you guys have that on your phone, if you could send that to me, that'd be terrific. Second is that there's just general experienced assistant training or coaching both tonight and Thursday, so if you're available, obviously an additional opportunity for feedback as well as counsel and support. And then finally, we have office hours on Friday. Just, and again, these slides will be posted tonight on the drive as well as on the blog, and I'll send out an email. But as a reminder, your final presentation for videos, we're going to actually ask that you guys all bring it on the same format. It actually makes it a lot easier for the athletics team. I think you can use Keepvid to transfer from YouTube, et cetera, but if you could share them with me as an MP4 file, and if you have any issues, just let me know, but we really want to get those in MP4. That'll make it easier for the live stream. And if we could have those in by noon, I know that 2 p.m. was a little bit tough for some teams today, but we really want to make Monday a super smooth experience, so if you could get those to me by noon, that'd be terrific on Monday. And then there's 2 other deliverables. One is a team reflection. It'll be a 2-page doc that you guys will all collaborate. Again, Evernote, Google Docs, whatever you want to use. But please share that document as well as a 2-page individual reflection with Sam's d.school email address. And again, we'll make sure that those all get filed away smoothly. But those will be the other 2 deliverables for Monday's class, because I know that the GSB students are done as of Tuesday, is I think the last day of the... So I think without further ado, we're going to pass it over to Team Fidelity. As a reminder, the format: 1-minute introductions, 3-minute video. Some of you are really good about that. 6-minute Q&A, and as you ask questions to the team, we will have this microphone. It'll be great to actually, again, test that experience of asking the questions into the microphone for those that are watching remotely. So without further ado, sorry.
Before we jump in, you guys should all have some paper, some paper and a Sharpie, either like at your seat or at the table that you're using. And we've kind of like come up with some measures that you guys will also on your final presentation that we'll be looking at in terms of like the quality and like what we're really looking for in the presentation. So like our design process and review, we're really looking for a human-centered focus. Like, is your point of view clear? User need insight, your solution, like does it work in the real world with desirability, feasibility, and viability, storytelling, character development, engagement, makes sense, does your story stick? And then a little bit of feedback for the team, like what inspired you as a listener and what should this team potentially change. So all of this, like if you guys as the teams go through their presentation, kind of write the team name and keep all this in mind, it's gonna be really helpful for your classmates to kind of get a last rev of like what it is we're looking for, especially from, you know, like a more critical standpoint. And then underneath this all, today we're really not gonna be looking at production per se, but on Monday's preview, we're really going to also factor that in terms of like delivery, but we're going to give you guys a little flexibility about that today. Can everybody see this? So are we good? So if you guys want to come up and check it out before we queue up with our first team, that'd be great. So give some love to your other teammates, and I think we're all good. Okay, yeah. Any questions? Great, cool.
When someone gets hired at Fidelity, it usually happens.
I'll start it and then you lead into it.
Say our names, then I'll explain.
So hi everyone, we're Fidelity Team 1. We're really excited to be here with you today and share our idea. I'm Margaret, I'm a second year here at the GSB.
I'm Jarrett, I am an MSX student.
I'm Yu, I'm also an MSX student.
And so today we'll share with you our idea by video, which Jarrett will give you a bit of background on before we dive right in.
So sorry Ward, we're actually destroying your format. So we did a little testing of our video and spoke to somebody new at Fidelity yesterday who actually made us completely pivot an idea at the last minute. So we don't have a video to share with you today of exactly what our prototype. Rather, we've gone back to the storyboarding, started over, and we are now pursuing a non-technological solution to the problems that we identified at Fidelity, which are making people feel welcome and also helping people find information within the company during the onboarding process. So we'll share our storyboard with you, and then we will be filming our video over the weekend.
When someone gets hired at Fidelity, it usually happens in one of two ways. One, they can be a part of a big cohort that goes through a training program together. Or, more often than not, it's just them, and they have to navigate the onboarding process alone. Since Fidelity already has extensive training programs for people who are coming in a cohort, we decided to focus on the individual new hires. When one of these individuals comes to the office on the first day, they're overwhelmed. There's all this stuff they need to learn, and it makes them feel lonely and lost. We believe that the key to making these feelings of loneliness and disorientation go away is human connection, both with other new employees and with people who've been there for a while. We want to create a cohort of people who are hired in the same 1 or 2 week window, even if they're not actually entering into the same job role or going through a training program together. And how we're going to do that is through a shared workspace called the Nest, which is where new Fidelity employees work for their first 1 or 2 weeks. They are in the shared space with all of the other new hires, and they can learn things from people who've been there a day or two longer, so that everyone doesn't have to go through the journey alone. Also, there are old employees who rotate in, get to know the new hires, and can share their experiences. Rather than having a canned pitch canned orientation pitch from HR, they get to hear real employees' experiences, tips and tricks of how they navigated the system themselves. Tentatively, the way it would work is that the new hires would have time to themselves in the morning to hang out with each other to wrap up things from the previous day. And then during lunchtime, some of the old employees would come and have a panel where they would tell these new hires about some aspect of Fidelity or something that they need to do in order to get onboarded. And then in the afternoon, the old employees would stick around to help the new hires as they're going through the process of completing whatever tasks the panel was about. So through the nest, we solve both the problems of loneliness and feeling lost. Since it's a space where the new hires belong and they bond with each other, they feel welcome. And since they're getting personalized orientations and not canned HR pitches, they form these human connections and start to feel oriented within the company.
So what we learned yesterday when we talked to the IT department is that that Fidelity is actually looking to consolidate systems and to scale back on their use of technology. And because we were pitching an application plugin, they did not like our idea. So that's why we went for a more process-based approach, or a physical space-based approach.
So this is the 6-minute period, thank you guys, where our audience can ask questions. So of our Fidelity Team 1. So does anybody want to kick it off? Ms. Bird.
I'm just curious how you guys are thinking about also having the individuals build relationships with their team, because I can imagine in a big company like Fidelity, your team becomes really important. Or maybe that's not correct. I'm just curious your response to that.
Yeah. Initially, like when we had the plugin, we were going to have the individual employee connect with people that they would be working with. For this new idea, it's focused more on new hires and on training. We'll make note of it. Thank you. I think it's a really valid point. This is like less than a day old, so we will definitely. Thanks for the feedback, and of course we'll definitely make note and think about that. Thank you.
During the day are also their current existing teammates, so the ones that do lunch with them or the afternoon.
Charles.
Just wondering whether new hires who are completely new from college also mix in with the new hires who are more experienced hires. Are they different departments being segregated, or?
Yeah, we hadn't thought about separating more experienced new hires versus less experienced new hires. I think that they have to go through the same training. And I think we see value in people, all different types of people in the organization bonding. So it's not something we thought about, but thanks for the question.
Yeah, I definitely love the idea of cross-departmental bonding and also cross-experiential sort of getting to know people, and how like existing employees can also rotate in. I think that's great. My question is around feasibility. So where are the majority of these individual hires located? I imagine that when they have like big cohorts, it's when they're hiring into the Boston headquarters. But if there's like lots of satellite offices where there's sort of one-off hires, I don't know how feasible it would be and how awkward it would be. Like at what size is this comfortable and at what size is it awkward? So like if you're in, Podunk somewhere, and Fidelity has a call center and they're hiring like 2 people over the next 2 weeks, is it just isolating to have them in this like weird glass-walled room? And does it feel less isolating when there's 10? So like sort of taking a closer look maybe at Fidelity's like hiring patterns across geographic locations, and then sort of
like the volumes at different times of year, would be an interesting sort of study around the feasibility of it.
No, that's a great question, and this is something that we've talked about because it is feasible that one person would start by themselves. So we thought about how would we handle that. So that's one of the reasons the existing employees would come in and sit with them. We hope that there would be multiple people starting at the same day. One question we did ask is, what is the size of the smallest office at Fidelity? And it's 450 employees. So there's a good base of people there. So podunk for Fidelity is not podunk for like a lot of companies. So there's a lot of people in the office. Something else we talked about was maybe if somebody starts by themselves, but there's somebody starting the week after or even 2 weeks after that they could wait and go through the process then. So there's some other sort of training activity, but have that shared experience later so that there are more people there.
So guys, I'm glad that you took the input from them and moved a little bit from the technology thing, because technology is sometimes viewed as the answer, and in this case it's clearly not. Why do you think this hasn't been done in Fidelity to date? Is this just a brilliant idea that nobody's thought about, or are there other reasons why you think they haven't gone down this path or something like this?
I think a piece of feedback, or through like the empathy interviews that we had done, something we heard was often the manager is very responsible for the new hires' onboarding experience. So like those first few days, it's very team specific rather than this cross-departmental, cross-team type feeling. Even though HR manages a lot of the benefits and they do that orientation, they kind of do the larger one, but not in smaller clumps, because those are usually more thought of on a per team basis, I think, as Liz actually even first had mentioned too. So I think this idea of feeling of isolation is like that feedback is like very pertinent. I think this idea of having to, wait 1 week or so, like that is something that we had thought about. The 2 week mark is probably when you do build a critical mass. But I think there are definitely risks to piloting. But at the same time, piloting something like this would be a low cost. I mean, to us, it seems like it could be something you could do in beta or in pilot version that Fidelity HR could take ownership of, rather than coming out with the expensive tech plugin. And then if that doesn't work, then, back to the drawing board. So we think of it as a good idea for them to experiment with.
Yeah. Time for one last question. I think here you go, Monica.
I'm just curious if you expect any challenges with having, with the employees who are tasked with hanging out in the nest every day, if you have plans to incentivize them, or if there are specific ways in which I would be encouraged to do that if I were an existing employee.
Sure. And so actually this might even, again, be helpful to answer like Liz's first question, which is maybe it is that it is your own teammate that you get to meet a new hire, and then you get to spend time with them in a setting that is away from your desk for a bit, kind of a new environment. Maybe we could even decorate that space in a way that would make it, we talked about outdoor, indoor as actually one of our first ideas, and changing the space from your usual desk. And so this actually is sparking some maybe ideas we'll put in for the video. But so incentive to get away from your desk and also meet a new team member on your team. So short answer.
Sure, but we thought, we hope that maybe work on a volunteer basis, and it's something that would appear on your employee review at the end of the year. So something that you could, at least score some sort of brownie points for, if not something else. Or you could get a free lunch at the very least.
Thanks for kicking it off, Fidelity Team 1. With that,
With your
comments to the team. And let me introduce Liz from the State Department team.
Hi, everyone. We are the State Department team. Just want to give a quick shout out to Caitlin, who's been hugely helpful, our sponsor. It's been really fun working with the State Department over the past 10 weeks or 9 weeks. So my name is Liz Bird. I'm a second year at the business school.
Vince Ebney, also second year at the business school.
I'm Angeliki. I'm a research associate at NASA.
And Andre, I'm an engineering PhD student.
And I guess the one disclaimer, since we have 30 seconds, we also been working a lot on our story. So this is a post-it video that's going to be improved over time, over the next few days. But would love feedback on how that story has evolved since you guys last saw it in the VC pitch.
Meet Jane. She's about to become a public affairs officer, or PAO, for the U.S. State Department. She's worked for years to get into this role, taking the Foreign Service exam and serving in other capacities within the State Department. She's eager, she's smart, and she's ready to go. The United States has embassies and consulates all over the world. Public affairs officers not only serve as their spokespeople, they also connect U.S. policy and culture to actionable programs. They walk and talk U.S. policy. In this way, Jane is like an entrepreneur. Just as an entrepreneur needs to understand their users' needs, their network, and their market, Jane needs to build relationships with her key stakeholders and coworkers and understand the unique opportunities and challenges facing her assigned country. To be successful, Jane needs to build and maintain a community. She needs to build trusting relationships within the embassy so she knows all of the programs that are going on. In addition, she needs to build a strong community outside of the embassy so she's not the only one holding the megaphone. Yet, the current PAO onboarding and training does not directly enable building these relationships. PAOs are trained in Washington for 8 weeks, largely in a classroom. When a public affairs officer arrives in country, their predecessor is typically gone, as is the connection to the many relationships he or she spent years building. In other words, they have to start from scratch. Can you imagine that frustration? You don't know anyone, you're all alone, and now you're representing the United States of America in a country you've never even been to. Now imagine that you're asked to make an impact immediately after you land. This is like asking an entrepreneur to create a new product without first understanding her users. The current training is missing a huge opportunity. What if community became a focus during those 8 weeks, not just processes, policies, and procedures? What if we made an in-country experience part of a public affairs officer's training? We recommend PAOs spending 2 weeks in country before their training in Washington. There's no set agenda, as every country is unique, but they will start meaningful conversations with staff and stakeholders and build actionable relationships with them. They would walk in their predecessor's shoes, they would meet who she meets, do what she does, and this will provide continuity among PAOs. Then they'd return to Washington for their additional training. Now you might be thinking, why don't they just get 2 weeks at the start of their jobs? Why do they have to make a separate trip? 2 reasons. First, in most cases, they learn from the outgoing PAO and seamlessly take over their work. And second, we think it will increase the effectiveness of their training in Washington. When they're in their training on grants, they'll think about where to focus their promotion efforts. When they're learning about management challenges, they'll think about the particular staff they'll inherit. It currently takes 4 to 6 months for a PAO to truly get up to speed in country. That's almost 1/4 of their time at post. At a cost of around $5,000 a person, it'd be an incredible bang for the buck if we could shrink some of the time for PAOs to get up to speed in country. To ease the transition and improve the success of our solution, we recommend a pilot. Start with 25% of current PAOs and test their success against those who receive the standard training. Just think, you'd never expect an entrepreneur to be successful without first deeply knowing their customers and context. Why are we asking PAOs to do the same? Let's set PAOs up for success. Let's make it so that they have the tools they need to build community first and amplify the messages of the United States of America around the world.
So questions for the State Department, Win.
Not a question, I guess a comment more. I thought the addition of the entrepreneur thing was good, and especially for our business school minds, because it gives us something tangible to understand. Because a lot of us, it's like the State Department is something that it's a totally different organization, and runs it with very different incentives, and different people join for different things. So I liked that was easier for me to understand, and you were able to like compare in that way. So feedback on that.
Zia.
Yeah, so just one kind of stylish thing for you guys and for the team before, and probably the other teams as well. Just when you finish the video, just make some kind of closing comments for 10 seconds or so that just kind of brings it together. Just immediately going from the video to questions is a little, and it's not your fault, it's just everybody, that would be just to say how it comes together.
Oh, like when we come back on stage.
Yeah, I would, absolutely. Because otherwise it just becomes like, oh, here's the video and we're going to stop. So take your 10 seconds to say, look, we're passionate about this, whatever, just sell it, if you will. The content comment is, I wouldn't be too fast to move away from the post-it note video thing, except for the one that fell down. Oh, you moved it, okay. It works pretty well. The fact that it's one concise relatively powerful idea is also good. So it's not cluttered by a lot of stuff. I'd ask the same question that I asked kind of the earlier team. Why hasn't it happened thus far?
This has been done on a much larger scale until the budget cuts in the late 90s. In fact, one of the senior ambassadors to whom we talked said that that program that used to exist was his best training. And so now we could reframe our mission as, how do we bring back this best training that used to exist but faster and cheaper?
So if that's true, I would for sure put that in there, because then the natural question would be, do you have the budget for it now? Right.
Yeah,
So, but I would put that in there, that this was tried, and then the counter answer to that would be, if you did it today, it would cost X, and the X is worth it.
Right.
Then you put a nice bow around it. Otherwise, it
And this is a 25th of the time for what they used to be,
Right.
like, in that program for. So it's condensed, basically.
Cool.
And another thing, a reason that it hasn't happened, I think it's because the role of the public affairs officers keeps changing now with all the social media and the internet connections. So now they need to engage with more people from around the society, and their roles keep changing, and they need more relationship building skills more than ever before, I think.
Just wondering, why don't they just hire PAOs with a deep local knowledge?
A PAO only stays in country for 2 years, and then they'll get another country and so on and so forth. So really this solution that we've developed can apply to those as well, not just first time in this country, but them going to any new country.
So I think you're asking, why don't they hire local staff? Gotcha.
In that country. It's because they get a new country after 2 years. That could be completely different. They can move up beyond PAO eventually, but
Like Caitlin, for example, has lived in a bunch of different countries. So the way the Foreign Service is set up, you move every 2 or 3 years to a different country and are sort of rotated around.
And more of a comment on my side. Maybe you could highlight again how small the investment actually is, and maybe you could compare that. I was just thinking, if you compare that to the total expense of not just this 5,000 here, but the total expense of housing this person and everything over the 2 years is this. So it ends up just being 2% of the overall cost, or whatever percent it is. Right. That way you could say, look, for this tiny fraction of the total cost, you're making such a big impact. The other thing, for me, I like the analogy, but the entrepreneur didn't really do it for me personally, because and maybe that's just me, but I was thinking more like a pastor or something like that that's actually kind of reaching out and trying to understand community. Entrepreneurs kind of network for a very specific task, but that was just my feedback on that. Hey.
Separation of church and state. We can't go with pastor.
And I think one of the things that's beneficial about the entrepreneur is that from the interviews that we did, they're trying to better articulate what PAOs do, and they are sort of entrepreneurial in terms of they're not just spokespeople. So that was one benefit for having that, but I totally hear you that it's not a direct parallel.
So Caitlin, I know you'll be involved with the team, but if you were asked your recommendation by whoever makes the decision at the State Department, would you strongly support the state doing this?
Yeah, I would, absolutely. And I was in Washington last week, and I talked to people about the idea that's been percolating in another field in the State Department, in the consular field, they have started to do something like this, and it seems to be working well. So the idea is actually really nice timing, because we can take the idea and then we can actually look at a case where it's happening and point to success, and I think it bolsters the strength of their argument. Yeah.
Feedback. We'll bring up to the stage the SAP team.
Hi there, we're the SAP team, and we're super excited to show you our video, a little first introductions. My name is Wynn, and I'm a second-year MBA.
I'm Josephine, and I'm an undergrad. I'm a senior.
Leslie, I'm a second-year MBA.
I'm Jonathan, MSX student.
I'm Shiv, first-year International Policy Studies.
In our 31 seconds left, I'd like to say that we also are sensing a theme, that everyone is taking whatever they had all along and gotten great feedback and decided to scrap that completely and start over, which is exactly what we've done. So you'll see the product of scrapping that and within the last 24 hours coming up with the newest idea.
Super excited to contribute to her team and wants to get started right away. She wants to meet her team members, her manager, and is super excited to know what they're working on. She's ready to be set up for success. However, the what seems like forever 3-hour onboarding experience with HR in the morning after day one has left her incredibly bored and still clueless about how she will be contributing to such a big company. The orientation is so boring that all the other new hires start making paper airplanes and flying them across the room. She can't wait to just get the computer and start working. But, oh no, they don't have the right computer for her to do that. Wah, wah. Introducing the SAP Self-Guided Orientation Platform in the cloud with the new hire checklist dashboard. Here's how it works. The platform has all the information a new hire needs, from HR's perspective, to be successful at SAP, including mandatory videos and tutorials that have trackers to monitor progress watching them. Jamie receives access to the platform with her own login a week before starting at SAP, so she can start learning even before day one. This gets her excited about joining SAP, meeting her team, and to start contributing from the minute she gets to the campus. Getting access to the platform early gives Jamie the opportunity to get some of that boring mandatory HR stuff out of the way before she joins. Behind the scenes, HR and Jamie's hiring manager have access to the dashboard that clearly shows the progress of Jamie through the system. Then, on Jamie's day one, Jamie's assigned buddy, a member of her team who is relevant to her learning experience, will pick her up from minute one with Jamie's laptop in hand, ready to set her up for success. She has one more week to complete the self-guided orientation and get through the new hire checklist. And with the platform in the cloud, she can pick it up right from her own SAP computer. The new hire checklist on the dashboard lets her know what more she needs to complete before the deadline at the end of the first week. Tasks include schedule a coffee with her buddy, schedule a time to meet with her own other team members, and set goals with her manager. The platform has a clear checklist for Jamie to use so she knows what she needs to do and by when. Her manager is accountable for Jamie completing all of these by the end of week 1. The completion of the entire checklist is tied to both the manager's and new hires' performance reviews. The SAP self-guided orientation platform allows all new hires to hit the ground running when they get to SAP, setting them up for success for the rest of their time at the company.
So we hope you guys like that, and we are looking forward to your feedback on this idea.
So questions for the SAP team?
Just a quick thing. I thought that maybe giving it a name that could be catchy would be a good way to sell it. Just small suggestion.
You mean like a shorter than SAP self-guided orientation platform name?
Yeah, yeah. Like I thought that was like the whole concept of the thing. Like maybe, yeah.
Okay. Thanks for your feedback.
If you have any suggestions, please let us know.
Yeah,
We'd love it.
If you'll write the thing that comes to your mind on your feedback form for what this platform could be called, that would be really helpful.
Okay.
Give us your favorite 3-letter acronym, something work appropriate, ideally, and jot down your form.
So first of all, I'm glad that you guys made the so-called pivot, even though it was a little late in the day. How do you feel about that?
I think we were pretty panicked, especially at first, but I think kind of going through the process and like actually storyboarding this out, I think we're pretty much on the same page now. We know what we have to get done, and I think we can do it.
So you feel good about it?
I think all of us feel a lot better about this idea than we did previously. Okay. So yeah.
So that's perfect, because that's part of this whole design thinking thingy-majiggy, right? I mean, the ability to take this information and not feel that you're so vested in a certain idea that you can't roll it back and go in a different direction. And so kudos to you that you made that switch at the point that you did. Now you need to hustle a little bit, like I said in the email, to kind of get it to the finish line, but that's okay. I mean, that's in the real world, your deadline, won't change that much either. A couple of things, and this is also as I was thinking for the other teams as well, it would be good if you had 1 or 2 examples of a company that has done something similar. So whatever your idea is, right? So I know there are people in some consulting firms and other firms that have pretty nice self-service platforms. I think Google does as well and so on. But just to say that this is not something that's completely new, it would be new to SAP. I mean, they have some stuff there, but it's very difficult and it's very administrative. So for this, and then also for the other teams, I mean, have one sticky note that says, look, this has been tried here, this has been tried here, this is the power of it, right? So sell your idea in ways that you would sell other stuff.
I have a follow-up question on that. So in a lot of interviews, we spoke to people who said, we're the opposite of a Google. And so I know that Google, to an SAP audience, the onboarding process might have a very specific brand and may make people say, oh, well, then we don't do that if this is something that happens at a Google. So how are we to think about co-branding and choosing companies that fit?
Sam can comment on it from his current perspective, but from me, I don't give a shit. I mean, it's different perspectives and different ideas. People are pretty passionate about entering Google. It doesn't matter whether it's Google. It could be Google, it could be Netflix, it could be anybody else, right? It's the fact that a company is able to get somebody coming into their organization excited and psyched and getting the administrative stuff done out of the way in a friendly, fun way online is an important way to do it, as opposed to going through, one full day of a new person walking in and saying, here's 3 forms to fill out.
No, nothing to add to that one, but I was going to say, I think Zia's comment about using Google wasn't necessarily to use Google, but if you just use another example of any other organizations that's doing something,
just like as a benchmark.
You have a quick way to address feasibility, right? You don't even have to go into numbers. You could just say, look, this other company does it, right?
Just to follow up on Zia's point, the idea of looking for examples, I was wondering, how does this fit in this whole idea of design thinking where we're trying to look for something out of the box? I'm trying to draw parallel to what we have been discussing in this class, like, don't go with what the majority says, but try to look for extreme ideas. So it's like, I'm trying to reconcile these two ideas.
It's a fair question. Again, anybody on the teaching team can answer. Out of the box, in the context of what that company is doing at that point in time, right? Out of the box doesn't necessarily mean it's a completely new idea that you write a PhD thesis on that nobody's ever done before. And many times it's how you put all the pieces together, right? That you're open to it's perfectly okay to go cheap and take ideas from different places. This is why when you do brainstorming, you're encouraged to add to other people's ideas. There's no ownership of that. And so it doesn't mean it's nobody's ever done this before, it's completely unique. There's not many things you do in life that are so completely new that nobody's ever done before. But it's how you put the pieces together, how you package it. There's so many nuances to doing this kind of thing that there will be plenty of opportunity to do things differently or do them the SAP way.
Right.
But the core of it, that's...
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand, like, it's like both the upside as well as downside of following this kind of pattern, like giving an example of, oh, see, these 4 companies have already done it. Well, it could have advantages, at the same time disadvantages. Advantages because it's like it's already tried and tested, so you guys wouldn't fail, something of that sort. The disadvantage is like, okay, if people have already done it, what is that you are bringing new to the table, right? So I'm like trying to balance between these two pros and cons, and which one should we value more?
So look, at the end of the day, whether you're a designer or business person or whatever, if no action is taken, if something actually doesn't happen, then it's failed, right? And in order for something to happen, the person has to be convinced. And the convincing will happen based on the creativity of the idea, the feasibility, and the viability, all right? And to Sam's point, if you can show that somebody else has done it, I mean, it's a very natural, you guys have learned this in your class, it's a very natural thing, right? If you say, okay, somebody's done this, I can see, we need to change it a lot, but we can do it here, right? So I wouldn't get so hung up on the out of the box stuff. It's more important that it have impact and it be successful. Okay. Out of the box and it doesn't work or it's not practical, at the end of the day it is irrelevant. Then it's just a nice, sticky note exercise.
Thank you.
My design professor at Stanford used to say he had 3 laws of design. One, design is a social activity. Number 2, design, best designs come when you kind of preserve ambiguity as long as you can, which means don't jump straight to stay in that uncomfortable space. But the third one is all design is redesign, meaning that some people kind of get caught up trying to kind of invent something that nobody has ever seen before, where really kind of everything is inspired by everything else, and really kind of the key is to kind of get your inspirations. And then apply it to that particular situation where it makes the most impact.
Perfect. Thank you.
Andre, I know you were waiting.
Thank you. Yeah. You brought in a lot of different emotions, and I think it's up to you whether you want to keep all of them or just focus on some. Maybe good numbers would be either 3 or 7. Secondly, you seem to be mentioning the laptop, that they need the laptop right away, but that is kind of like a second solution to possibly a different need that you were articulating in the emotional part of the user setup. And so if you want to, you can keep it, but also it will, you could also toss it and nothing will suffer.
Also in your feedback, can you write the emotions that did resonate with you? It would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally want to resonate with what Andre was just saying. I wrote down, it looks like you have 2 solutions, a tech platform and then a laptop and a buddy system. And one of the things that I also think, like zeroing in on one and really expanding it, it seems like the laptop is a pain point, but like trying to figure out whether or not that's what you're really solving for, or is it, for example, the bored and cluelessness at orientation. It sounds like you got a lot of like things that you're noticing in the entire process, and really narrowing on one will help like keep your solution a little more.
The thing that how we looked at it is that we focused on the laptop. We sort of like thought about focusing on the laptop, but then we realized like, whatever the fact that they don't get it, we didn't want to try and fix that necessarily because it's not everybody, but it seemed like nobody wanted to try and fix the day one orientation. Like talking to hiring managers, I was like, do you feel empowered to like change that? They're like, no, wait, that's HR. And I just feel like this solution kind of empowers to get rid of that. And then by doing so, you're empowering them like minute one to like join so empowering the new hire to like join their team. And so it's kind of like by getting rid of one, you have to fill it with something else. And so you're filling it with something else just as good. So it's almost like a win-win.
Well, I think one of the things I see a lot of teams do is feature creep, where it's like they are kind of doing this like compounding solution that then's like, oh, well, this will trigger this and this and this and this and this, and then it becomes like this Swiss Army knife. You're not really sure what we're supposed to use it for exactly. Okay. So I get the compounding effect and maybe long term, and if like you want to, but I think focusing in on one of those experiences is really going to help. Also in the sense I was trying to like see the tech, like what questions and information was present, really maybe addressing like why that information is important to the company or like to the person when they do an orientation. Like, is it because they need information about their taxes or healthcare or something, and maybe solving a specific thing within that, like what is undigestible about the information and why do I need to digest it? I don't know if that makes sense, but if it doesn't, we can talk later because I don't want to. Yeah, great.
So we will bring up Fidelity Team 2.
So we're Fidelity Team 2. I am Jeff Brownlow, a second-year MBA.
I'm Monica Leese. I'm an MSX student at the GSB.
I'm Lisa Lee, a third-year law student.
I'm Namiko, second year at GSB.
My name is Walden, a second-year student at the GSB.
So we're not going to stick with the theme of today of having fully pivoted and reinvented. We actually have just tried to repackage the story that we told earlier in a more simple and streamlined way. So I think some of the feedback that would be most helpful for us is just the continuity of the story, and do you understand specifically what our offering is?
How would you like to go on a trip with us today? Let's imagine going to a faraway destination where you've never been before. You might be a little nervous. Perhaps you have a lot of questions about where to stay or what to do once you touch down. Maybe you don't even speak the language. There's a lot of planning to do before you arrive. As you think about all the questions in your mind, consider how this journey might apply to the adventure of starting a new job. At Fidelity, newcomers embark on a journey with one of the most established names in the investment industry. In the case of customers, newcomers with the company can expect to be welcomed warmly. They have guides at their sides to walk them through any questions that arise as they come aboard, finding help in person, on the phone, or online. But for new employees at Fidelity, we learn through our research that the welcome is not always so warm. Some employees went so far as to tell us they had no onboarding at all. They were left to fend for themselves, they said, lost in a foreign Fidelity land, feeling very distant from new colleagues. We have developed a solution to help new Fidelity employees feel a bit more welcome on this onboarding journey. We asked, what if new employees could be treated as well as a first-class traveler and as warmly as a first-class customer? Introducing Fidelity Concierge, a tool that uses both digital tools and real live humans to help new employees feel as valuable as the customers they serve. This is a tool that will be shared with new hires well before their first day in the office. One element of the digital concierge is the additional chart. New employees will learn both personal and professional details about their soon-to-be colleagues, allowing them to mesh with their new Fidelity family as quickly as possible. The concierge tool will have many other digital components, including an office map and an interactive to-do list of pre-onboarding action items. There will be a timeline to show progress as new hires prepare for their first day. There's also a human component of this concierge tool. Much like the white glove service Fidelity has for its customers, employees will have a 24-hour concierge hotline. Unsure about benefits, healthcare, the dress code on your first day at work? You name it, this hotline will have answers. This one-on-one concierge hotline will also help with one of the biggest pain points we heard from employees, the process of transferring financial assets once a new employee is hired. Hands-on help with this process will be part of our solution. This concierge will even support newcomers through their first day of work anxiety when it comes to meeting and greeting new faces. It can even answer that dreaded first day question, who will I sit with at lunch? And so, just like a foreign traveler off to visit a new destination for the first time, or a new Fidelity customer who quickly becomes part of the Fidelity family for life, we expect this concierge tool will help valuable Fidelity employees feel more welcome in their new home away from home.
Monica will now answer any questions that you have. The 15-second closing spin.
Yes. You don't look too excited about your idea.
We're very excited about our idea, and in fact, we've thought about how to scale it. We think there are a lot of really simple ways that we could roll this out in a less advanced form. We know it might seem quite complicated now, but we think there are some really simple ways that we could introduce this to the Fidelity company out of the gate.
Liz?
So that was great. I really enjoyed your guys' movie. I liked the stylistically how you did it. I think the imagery was great. The one thing that I got confused about in the beginning was the traveler story. I get how you want to bring in the first class piece. It comes in the middle. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And I know you guys had presented that before. But I almost felt as though you had two metaphors in the beginning. One was the traveler, then was the customer, then was the... So I missed like 2 minutes of it as I was trying to figure out sort of what was happening with the sad traveler. So just that was just my experience with watching the film.
On a similar note, maybe because there were two different kind of analogies that were being made, I was kind of confused as to which problem you were trying to solve. Is it more like the distance from the fellow employees that a new hire feels, or is it more the lack of knowledge? Because I feel like those two seem to be pretty different problems, and I think your solution tries to solve both, but maybe articulating which problem makes more sense. I think it's kind of like a problem our team has in terms of trying to solve a lot.
Yeah, I really like the product. Being a Fidelity customer myself, I think they have excellent customer service, and so I can see how the online chat feature, for example, that I use when I have my bank account open would also be an awesome thing to have. And the hotline, and I've been a huge fan of both of those services from Fidelity. I wonder sort of if you can make a financial argument for this by saying, talking about the asset transfer. So Fidelity is actually gaining a new customer. So because these employees are transferring assets to Fidelity, and the better customer service that you provide to them as they transfer those assets, perhaps the more encouraging you can be to them to use Fidelity as their one and only investment platform. And so because I can imagine a solution like this is quite expensive, perhaps framing it in that way could help Fidelity really understand the value of the program.
So is it expensive? Is that a correct assumption?
I think that if we were to do it, and we didn't do a good job here articulating that, if we were to do it as a totally separate team to do onboarding, it would be very expensive. But I think your point, Dorothy, is the infrastructure exists for current customers, and if you allow the new employees to go through that exact same process, it's a very efficient way to do it.
How many people do they hire a year?
4,000.
4,000 people.
4,000. So how many concierge, full-time equivalent concierges do you think you'll need to cover that? How many? 40 to 50. So 200K each. Right.
last time, around 2 to 3 million.
Okay, so you may want to put it in here. So, I mean, 2 to 3 million compared to their entire, even, onboarding budget is probably tiny for that stuff. Is there anybody else that's doing this out there? Do you know?
Well, Jeff, you brought up your example at when you onboarded at Bain as being a really great model that had a lot of hands-on touch.
Yeah, at Bain Capital, this is essentially what we had, which is instead of having a separate function where you would have a recruiter bringing you in and then
Right.
a handoff to a team, it was the same person who was essentially like, we were called this, but an account executive for your
Right.
experience.
Right.
And anything that you needed from before you arrived, the day you arrived, 6 months in, where you had a question, you could always go to that person and they could answer or direct you to anyone, anything across the departments, and then it was again plugging you into the right team.
And this is a comment to everybody. I think just my gut feeling is that the cost of these solutions in general is not that high compared to the negative perception that the new employees have. And so I would just come out and say that. There are other reasons why this stuff doesn't happen. I don't think cost is the top 5.
I guess to echo what Dorothy said in terms of storytelling, it is very clear and very simple to say, your employees are also your customers. You should treat them the same. And you also already have all the resources, all the processes set up for that. It's simple and it sticks.
I guess, would you consider tiering your employee base at all for the level of like high touch versus low touch concierge that, more like senior employee arriving there versus a more junior one right out of the gate? Like the needs might be higher, or if, somebody has to like relocate, how are you thinking about that in terms of time spent even for like concierge per employee?
I think the other Fidelity team did a good job hitting on the same thing we'd consider, which is you have a group of people who start as a class, and then you have the senior folks. And our intuition and the conversations we had were those who are starting in a class generally have most of those needs met. It's usually the people starting one off who tend to be more senior, who have more of these types of problems. And so we would envision the concierge being sort of a general place where you could have the chat or hotline option, but also specifically for the more senior people that they would offer other types of services.
One last question.
Okay, thanks, sorry. I wanted to see what your users felt about all the kind of experiences that you put forward. We got this idea of a concierge being really direct. We also have like a Fidelity family. You showed this nice picture of like a family photo, a process map, a space map, and then also understanding who we would talk to and sit to at lunch as like all the components of what this would represent. I'm curious, what did your users say about each? Did you take these back to the user and get feedback on these components?
Not these specific components. These are specific pain points, though, that they mentioned during the empathy interview, having to do with the loneliness and who they're with.
These are like fantastic ideas. Before presenting, take them back and get some understanding as like maybe a process map is something that like sounds really great, but in front of them they're like, actually, the space is really easy to manage and it would make me feel comfortable, but figuring out who I'd sit with at lunch is like really how I feel. And then like try and build maybe a story around one of those experiences as opposed to just like laying them all out and trying to seek a little more of the user interaction. I think that really like elevate the experience. Great. Testing. Yes.
One more question from Dr. Yen.
Just following up actually on Alex's point, just like we were saying in the previous team, how if you point to another organization doing it, that instantly kind of gives you the credibility on feasibility. What Alex is pointing out, if you just get some, even if it's just a couple quotes, that you've gotten some feedback from your user testing, that gives you instant credibility on the desirability piece, right? So just simple techniques. A lot of times in practice, we'll put quotes in terms of the feedback, either on the need side or on the feedback side, or a little video testimony or something like that. But those types of things show that it's not just something that you thought would be a good idea, but you've actually taken it back to the end user and gotten some positive feedback.
Thanks.
Good work, guys. Thank you.
Feedback to the team. Bringing it home. Visiting from Houston, Texas. No.
Exxon Mobile.
One last thing, just when you're introducing yourselves, I know everybody in the room knows what MSX is, but don't assume that your sponsors will know what that means. Okay.
Team, and we work for actually Exxon Mobile information technology group. So it's actually not the whole company, and we would like to emphasize that. And my name is Zhengwei. I'm a second-year MBA student here.
My name is Dorothy. I'm a second-year MBA student. One of the challenges that Exxon Mobile IT is dealing with is that they have multiple offices all around the world. The majority of their employees sit in Houston, but they also have employees who we spoke to in Buenos Aires, in Budapest, in Kuala Lumpur, and they want to make sure that they can provide at least some level of standardized onboarding experience to them all.
I'm Maria. I'm an international policy student.
I'm Tesh. I'm a master's student in mechanical and management science.
Charles Shea, Slow Fellow in Business School.
Introducing an on-demand onboarding process to Exxon Mobile Information Technology, or IMIT, to help make the transition from academic to professional life less taxing. Each year, over 90% of IMIT hires come to Exxon straight from their undergraduate studies. While in school, they work with a recruiter, communicating with them regarding their questions and send an offer before they graduate, which is May. But they don't start their new job until after the summer, which is in mid-August to September. Between the job acceptance and the start date, without any personal communication. All the new graduate receives are generic or redundant emails about legal requirements, identifications, and other topics. And it keeps going. This makes them feel left out and unappreciated.
New hires have many questions about their job, but have a hard time contacting the right person for the answers. They are in touch with a third-party reallocation specialist, but do not have regular contact with anyone at Exxon, not even the recruiter they spoke during the hiring process. Their only reference is a variety of paperwork which they can browse for answers. As time goes by, the new hire begins to wonder if Emmett values them, or even if they have chosen the right job. During our design process, we sought to address some of these issues to grow new hires' attachments to Exxon Mobile before they join, as well as answer any urgent questions quickly and make our new team member feel heard. We introduce on-demand onboarding. On-demand onboarding is a simple two-step process that creates personalized, month-long engagement for the new hire. In step 1, the new hire will respond to a survey about their onboarding needs. During step 2, a personalized private video channel is created for each new hire in response to the survey.
As part of the video channel, Exxon Mobil has a vast library of videos already online they can draw from to create a useful and tailored knowledge base for new hires and their areas of interest or needs, per the survey to be watched on demand. Most importantly, existing and new videos can easily answer the most pressing questions for new hires at their convenience, reducing the frustration of having to call HR or look through dense manuals for the answers.
New hires will not only be able to watch short introductory videos from their HR contact, buddy or future colleagues, but they also have the option to upload a few minutes of video to introduce themselves.
Through the on-demand onboarding process, we hope to make the new hire feel connected, supported, and proud of EMIT. Since EMIT is not that well known as an IT employer, its new recruits need to feel great about their decisions, share their excitement with their loved ones, and hopefully spread the message about EMIT to their college cohorts.
Can we leave the last slide up as a reference? So just to wrap it up, this is a similar solution to what another group had developed. We've spoken extensively with Exxon Mobil's IT team, and we're lucky that they are, in fact, our sponsor. And they've shown that it's very feasible to execute this. They have an existing library of content that they can feed in to specifically answer frequently asked questions. And they're very keen to work with existing team members to help them create short introductory videos about themselves that they can upload to also introduce themselves to the new team member. Ready for questions?
So my first question was, why can't it just be solved with, or it felt like an expectations problem in the beginning, like you didn't know exactly what the summer was going to look like. You knew you had a job, but you kind of were expecting maybe more communication, and that there wasn't. And so I was kind of like, why can't it just be solved with HR kind of being like, take the summer, we'll contact you on this date, blah, blah, blah. And then you mentioned at the end, like, that EMIT is not known as an IT employer, and so it's good for branding. And I thought that was actually a point that if you wanted to, like, to be made earlier, because then I understood why you wanted to make this whole effort and, like, do the effort of building the platform. So I think you can bring that more forward if you think that that's important, because that sounded like something that would really benefit EMIT, but I didn't hear earlier and kind of answered my earlier question.
Yeah, one of the reasons why we like video is because they're shareable, and one of the ways we hope to measure the success of this program is around the awareness of Exxon Mobile IT as a hiring company amongst college graduates. So next year, after this program is implemented, how many other college grads know about it because some of these videos were shared, and to build brand awareness on campuses.
I guess an addition to that is to let millennials be millennials, because right now we're in the age of tweeting status updates, Vines, Snapchats. So these short clips will grab their attention. It doesn't take long, so they don't have to go through the whole manual of sections to kind of find that little information that they're looking for. It kind of brings that concept like we're kind of lose interest. We don't have that much of an attention span. And as millennials, we want our information right there at our fingertips. We want it short, and we want it sweet, and we want it concise.
I think everything you just said there actually drew me in a lot, more than I think. I love the landscape, beautiful slides, but I actually think, what if you made a video that was like your intro video as like a new hire, right? This reminds me a little bit of like 2-minute PD, but in a way that's like applied to onboarding, and I think it's awesome. It's kind of like even like a Facebook of new hires with like their little intro videos. I love the idea. I think the way of it communicating is like almost like doing it yourselves, and setting up the stage and then creating something like that would draw me in. But even what you just said right there, like those descriptive words also helped a lot too.
Yeah, and this has been shown. A lot of companies actually do this. Like, they have like a Facebook group that it's closed off unless you're like an employee, and they open it up to you, and it usually brings support for people that are coming into the company from different areas. You even see like unofficial Facebook groups for interns at a certain company, or people that are interning in the Bay Area. Like, you have these unofficial groups for support, and people really gravitate towards those. It's more like creating content among users that help that anxiety between users, and that are like, I'm going to Mountain View, what do I do? Then you have this other person response, like, there's like so much stuff to do there when you're free. Just kind of makes a community. At the same time, it helps them kind of be emotionally connected to the area that they're going to move to, or the company that they're going to work with.
So I think that's an excellent suggestion for you guys, but it just goes also to an overall comment I wanted to make later, which I'll make now, is now you're at the stage in the course, the ideas are there, the core of the ideas are there. Now you have to go sell this, right? And so this gets into the normal presentation stuff, the energy when you're standing in front here, how passionate you are about it. Do you actually believe in what you're talking about? I mean, these organizations have engaged because they're genuinely looking for you to potentially come up with something that they may go do. Okay? And so if you don't believe it, don't do it. But if you believe it, show it. Okay? And one practical way in this case is, the fact that you're now hiring people that are so much more comfortable with video content and all kinds of stuff, going and doing something, figure out how to bring your good ideas alive, both in the presentation, in how in the tone and of the voice on the video, right? Sometimes it's a little bit monotone, which is like, yes, and then this person does this, and then they do this. So get that excitement out there in the videos, in the presentation. When you answer the Q&A, just all of the presentation stuff that you guys know and hopefully do in other stuff, that would be the time to go bring this. So don't leave anything behind on that. Sell this idea passionately if you believe it. If you don't believe in it, then pivot again until you do believe in it.
Andre?
So you want to rely on user-generated content from people within the company, and I'm wondering, what is the company culture like right now, and are people going to make that content, and how are you going to incentivize that?
And it's just not the user-generated content. There will be a general library of videos that Exxon already has that describes the company, the benefits that they have. The user-generated content is actually for the user to feel connected and to connect with other new hires and their team. Somebody wants to elaborate.
Yeah, and I specifically got feedback on that today, if people in the company would be willing to do this. And the answer was that they are extremely creative. They're really willing to do these videos. In fact, they told me that in another section, in the security section, they are doing amazing videos, and all the HR bodies and those like people that would be engaged in this will really be willing to do this. So yeah, the culture is pro that.
And just one quick add-on, we didn't have time to mention in the video, but Exxon Mobile IT has a very successful buddy program wherein they pair a hire who had already been there for at least a year with a new hire. And that starts on day one, but we're hoping to have that start before day one through user-generated content interaction through the video channel with the buddy and the new hire.
Very quick question. Why not video chat and why video?
I think back to the point, I think we created a video because it's like people want to watch it whenever they are available, and then people don't want the frustrations of scheduling, especially we want this to happen, but we don't want to burden the employees or burden the new hires, who might actually be on vacation for that time, and they want to do it whenever they feel they like doing it. And then another thing I want to point out is having a video. This is not going to be mandatory for all the new hires to create their own contents. This is optional, so they can get to do it right after they accept the offer, or maybe just before they are going to start. So leave people option to do that.
Just a video library can be scaled much easier. Keep a lower cost lower, like having people just schedule a time to devote to it.
So content comment, I like how you, before you talked about your solution, you actually talked about what you wanted your solution to achieve. I think you said increase engagement, connectiveness, answer questions. So I thought that was good to kind of set that up before you actually went to the solution. And then I think you followed up with that, again, to hopefully kind of reinforce that. So I thought that was good. Question is, I think there was some concern from this team that 3 minutes wasn't enough to kind of tell all the insights that you learned for Exxon. So what would be the one or two things that you would say in addition to what the video showed to Exxon in terms of what you learned about their onboarding process?
Through the user interviews, you mean?
I think one thing I think that maybe after we come back we should edit. So those are the three goals, but really like our goals actually are focused on the people's feelings. I think that's at least my biggest learning in this process. Instead of solve a problem, but I'm trying to solve how people feel instead, just that specific problem. So we really hope after having this channel, they feel connected and they feel proud of the organization they're joining. And the leading action is they are willing to call their parents, friends, whomever, and by saying, accept this offer, I'm going to work and I watched this video. Just this proudness they are willing to spread. But I'll say really the learning to solve that feeling.
Oh, yeah, just to emphasize that, talking about the gap of time for the new hires, whether that's someone out of college or someone out of their MBA. In one of our interviews, they had gone through such a grueling process to select Exxon as their employer, but without the brand recognition, they didn't get that sort of sense of accomplishment upon acceptance, and that was further compounded by a lack of communication or welcoming. And so that sort of became a negative feeling when there's really an opportunity there to turn it into a positive feeling of, wow, I'm really glad I'm joining this company. And they did eventually talk about they joined Exxon because they have such a good retention record and they really value each employee as a person and they value that person's career and their full career, which is a true good reason why to join Exxon. It just didn't come out in the way that they welcomed people to the firm.
I guess, yeah, in addition to that, I think I mentioned in class at one time, like, the insight that I got was people join a company for the projects that they do, but they stay for the people. And Exxon has the people. They want their new hires for the long term. They want them to succeed. It's just that trying to get them to be super excited about the company that they know nothing about, kind of, it gets really hard. And I guess that comes to Wynn's point at the very end. So in this way, we can ensure that they are emotionally attached. They are emotionally invested into the company, and they feel that they connect with the company early on into the process.
I think one thing that we couldn't mention is that this will work for all the places where they operate. Sometimes there's just one new hire, and sometimes there's a full cohort. So it's a way that can be customized for different environments.
I was just, almost any of those comments would be a great way to kind of wrap up the presentation, like Zia was saying, in terms of transition back, just to emphasize one of those points.
All right, last thing from Alex.
Great job, guys. You're all like, I'm so impressed, like with the group as a whole. You guys are like really on point here. I would suggest like kind of what's being echoed to make it. Like you can make this. Like right now with all the content that's present, you could, like, I'm really curious, like what are those survey questions? Like how are you going to get a newly hired person to the content that they need, and what would that synthesized version look like? And if you can show me, and I'm like Zia saying, engaged, intrigued, and like knowing that you're proud, like this could totally manifest. So, but push it that one step, and like make it and see how it goes. And if you could test it with a user and get their feedback, like it would really, really sing.
Actually, a question around that. Like, is that even necessary? Because what's going to happen is Exxon Mobile IT is going to take this and then they're going to put their own spin on it. And so just wondering why.
I think like the more that you make, and especially since this could happen in a really low resolution version, like remember Seamus's video, how he's filming videos over things, you know, even with your phone. I think making it to kind of bring us into the experience will really help. It sounds like a really good idea, but I'm interested in the practical application, and I know Exxon will do it to, you know, the execution that they need to, but like in order to engage the audience and get that user feedback.
Do you suggest we do that as our final presentation, like as if you were that person?
We can. Why don't we chat on like super delivery? I think, but you guys have a lot of potential to like make it and like say, here, we did it, like, and you know, it's easy for you to do because we did it too. Yeah, great.
Oh, yeah.
So before we send you guys out for your debrief videos, I want to offer up some time for Sam or Zia or Ravi or Cynthia to give some overarching feedback. Because again, I mean, I just want to, again, awesome job everybody today. It was really nice to see everybody come together. So
I guess my feedback would be, you know, you still have a lot of time. You still, until Monday. Please push. Try to kind of take everything to the next level. Like Zia was saying, you know, make sure that, you know, it comes across that you're passionate about your ideas. I think the overarching feedback is make sure that you're confident that this is a solution that your end users actually like. You spend so much time profiling and identifying your end users. Don't go into the meeting without the confidence that the end users actually like your solution.
I just made my comment earlier, so.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I'm in product management, so I would expect that we have a little bit more detail, because some places I felt that you guys just left it at, like, you know, at 80,000 feet or at a high level and then didn't dig down. For instance, making an online onboarding is at that level, but you know, I've done online traffic school. It's great for convenience, but that didn't make me fall in love with traffic school. So what would be the next thing? Because is that somebody mentioned that emotion and how you're trying to connect. what would that be? Similarly, if you were doing the State Department, like, okay, 2 weeks, but what would that be? Like, maybe a next level a little bit. So try to get people excited, get them, because I know you guys are really creative. I saw very creative ideas, but I thought you guys held back and just, maybe you're not sure of your idea, or I don't know what it was, but I felt that you guys didn't dive in. You guys stayed a little bit up. That's what I felt.
I just wanted to say that I'm really proud. I think you guys, when I remember like day one walking in here and us doing a DP0 and kind of like surveying the room and getting everybody on board, like, wow, like, super big congratulations, pats on your back, and I'm excited to see the presentations and to see what the partners have to say. I think it's been great. Cool, yeah. All right, yeah, Cynthia, do you want to chime in here? All right.
I definitely love some of the iteration that's gone on with some of the teams. Definitely putting in a lot of like sweat equity, even though there's a lot of hurriedness because deadlines looming, and gosh, you kind of hate throwing out old ideas because you've invested so much time. So kudos to teams that did that. I think one thing to keep in mind is that you want to use the video form to your advantage. So try not to make a video presentation of like your pitch because of the fact that there's impact in using video form. So to the extent that you can create a story instead of re-envisioning your pitch in a video form, I think you'll be more successful because there's just so much details that you're trying to get across. And to create or weave a story with emotion and impact should kind of guide you in kind of your final iterations of your videos, and that should really help a lot. So good job, team.
So we're going to start off with, Aaron, you good?
Yeah, we're going to go outside so you guys can...
All right, all right, so we're going to shut down the live stream for those that are watching. Thank you. And then there are two things to accomplish. One is for each team to do a quick debrief.